Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to this recorded webinar on how to apply to the REACH Fund, where I'll talk you through the process of applying to REACH alongside the detailed guidance available on our website. My name's Lisa Raftery and I'm Head of Grants at Social Investment Business. So first of all, what is the REACH Fund? REACH Fund is funded by the Access Foundation for Social Investment and has been running since 2016 to help charities and social enterprises prepare to raise social investment. The programme offers grants of between £5,000 and £15,000 to help organisations to carry out the work needed before an investor can make an investment decision. This might include developing business plans, financial forecasting, or strengthening governance. Applications are made through an access point, who are approved social investors who can refer organisations to apply for grants, and eligible organisations can apply to REACH following a referral from an access point. Access points are social investors approved by the REACH Fund who refer organisations they are working with to apply for grants. And there are 34 approved REACH access points, which you can find on our REACH Fund access point directory on the link below. So who can actually apply to REACH? So organisations applying to the fund must meet the following criteria. They must be based and operating from within England. They're looking to raise repayable finance in the next 6 to 12 months. They have a clear social mission, distribute less than 50% of post-tax profits, reinvest at least 51% of surpluses into pursuing the social mission, that there's a constitutional or contractual lock, such as an asset lock, and good governance, so a minimum of 2 independent directors. So a brief overview of the process, which I'll talk through in more detail in the next slides, just gives you an idea of from the point of making contact with the access point through to submission of the application, defining the investment readiness plan, and submission and review of an assessment and decision of the application. But as I said, I'll talk through each of these in more detail. So first of all, step 1 in making your application is to make contact with the access point. So applicants do need to first speak to an access point to determine if you're eligible to apply for REACH and if they can support you in that process. Once it's been determined that you are eligible for REACH and the access point has a fund that they can invest in you, the access point will then be able to send you the application link, and this will then allow you to start the process of applying to REACH. There are 6 sections of the application form. Sections 1 to 3 are fairly self-explanatory, and as I said, there's full detailed guidance on our website. But I will go into a bit more detail on sections 4, 5, and 6. Once the application form has been submitted, it goes directly to your access point. So this is a capture of the section 4 of the raising investment section of the application. And you can see here that there are specific details that we require to understand what kind of repayable, why you're applying for repayable finance, and what do you intend to use it for, which access point you're working with, and the kind of investment that you're hoping to raise. So for example, a secured loan, an unsecured loan, it could also be crowdfunding, for example. We need some further details on how much finance you're hoping to raise and how it will really help your organisation. We also ask some further details on what you're planning to use the investment for. Section 5 and 6. So Section 5 asks for a bit more detail on why you're applying to REACH Fund specifically, and how much grant you're applying for, and why you feel that you cannot raise the investment without the support of the REACH Fund. And it also asks if you've actually raised repayable finance before. Section 6 is about subsidy. So there is a link here that tells you a bit more detail about what is considered subsidy, so you can answer this question. but the REACH funding is considered subsidy, and we do ask if you have received any subsidy, such as other public funding from local authorities or government funding in the last 2 years. So once you've completed your application form, the next step is to work with your access point to define your investment readiness plan. So your access point will then work with you to develop this plan, and it will include things like the specific areas that they need in order to be completed in order to offer an investment to you. As I said before, this could include business planning, financial forecasting, governance, marketing, and there's a full list of eligible and ineligible REACH areas in our detailed guidance. It'll also include who's going to be delivering the work, so that could be a consultant that you're working with, it could be some backfill time internally, and also the associated costs for each of the activities that are outlined. And they will be this will be completed by the access point on their portal in partnership with yourselves. You and your access point will also consider how you'll embed the learning from REACH support. So how the support that on business planning, financial forecasting, or whatever it is that you've applied for, how you're going to embed that learning into your organisation. And once the investment readiness plan is complete, your access point will be able to submit your application along with their supporting statement to Social Investment Business. Just a bit more of a visual here on the exact details that will go into the investment readiness plan. So the activity might be, for example, financial forecasting. Description would be a bit more detail about what that's for. And, for example, is that the amount the amount of money that's going to cost and who it's going to be delivered by, and the number of days and the day rate. So a bit more detail on the activity, on the specifics of that activity, and there are also options to add further activities. So if you're getting support for a number of areas such as business planning, financial forecasting, marketing, etc. Step 5 is once the application is submitted, it will be reviewed by ourselves at Social Investment Business. And this will also include the supporting statement from the access point. Our checks include governance and financial checks. We check the purpose of the investment and the impact. And we also check the need for grant and value for money. So really understanding why it is you feel you need the REACH grant in order to access the investment from your access point. And then the SIB assessor will be in touch with either you or your access point with any questions. And we aim to provide decisions as quickly as possible within an average of 4 to 6 weeks. So finally, step 5 is review and decision by Social Investment Business. So once a decision is reached, Social Investment Business will inform you and your AP, the access point, of the outcome. If successful, you will receive a confirmation email and offer letter via DocuSign. And once the offer process is complete, the grant is paid in advance. If unsuccessful, you will receive an email detailing the reasons why you weren't successful. And finally, for a bit more detail, and if you've got any specific questions on the application process or if you're eligible, please do get in touch with us either on grants@sibgroup.org.uk or with our REACH Fund lead, Marina David, or myself, Lisa Raftery. And I've included the fund website and the application guidance links. Thank you very much for listening.